Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 6 shot, 3 dead following gun attack in Bounty. Tourism Enhancement Fund chairman says hotels must spike. And later in sports, Reggae Boys interim. I'm Anthony Lugg. Here are the details. 6 persons were shot, 3 fatally by gunmen in Bounty Hall, Trelawny this morning in a case of mistaken identity. The other 3 victims, all women, have been hospitalized in serious condition. The deceased have been identified as 24-year-old Daniel Williams, 26-year-old Tashay Black, and 25-year-old Shanelia Clark, all of a Trelawny address. It's understood that the 6 people were traveling home from a party after 1 a.m. in a black Toyota Voxy when they stopped to pick up a friend. They were attacked by 4 men carrying rifles and handguns who opened fire on the vehicle, hitting all victims. They were rushed to hospital, where 3 were pronounced dead. The 3 others are in hospital battling for their life. The police are now in the area conducting investigations. The St. Anne police are investigating the circumstances which led to the death of 2 men in the parish on Thursday. In the first incident, a member of the Juta St. Anne chapter was found with his throat slashed in Discovery Bay. He has been identified as Carlton Miller of Belair Runaway Bay in the parish. It's understood that about 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon, residents saw a blue Toyota Wish motorcar parked on the road in the Bridgewater area of Discovery Bay for a prolonged period and called the police. Upon their arrival, Mr. Miller's body was found on the back seat with multiple stab wounds all over his body and his throat slashed. The police found a knife, a scissors, and other implements which they believe may have been used in the murder. President of the Juta Ocharias chapter, Michael Farrell, has condemned the killing.
This one is really touching. We weren't expecting to hear anything like this, especially now that everybody's trying to is in a recovery mode from the pandemic. So it's very tragic.
Over in Steartown, 1 man was taken into custody following the fatal stabbing of 42-year-old Rohan Wilson, otherwise called Flacker, of an area known as Snake Lane in Steartown. TVJ News understands the deceased and another man had an ongoing feud for the entire day. About 6:30 p.m., Mr. Wilson used a machete to slap the man repeatedly, chasing him around the area. The other man retaliated and stabbed Wilson in the neck and chopped him on the hand. Mr. Wilson ran for a short distance but collapsed and was rushed to hospital where he died while undergoing treatment. The parish of St. Anne has recorded 5 murders since the start of the year. To other news now, don't blame the hotel sector for the spike in COVID cases. That comment from the chairman of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Godfrey Dyer, in the wake of reports of rising cases at some resorts in St. Anne. O'Shane Masters has the details.
Since last week, the country has been recording over 1,000 positive COVID-19 cases per day. It has raised concern from citizens that the increase in cases is due to the number of tourists which are allowed to vacation in the island. Their points were further cemented after the St. Anne Health Department reported that there has been a noticeable increase in COVID cases at the hotels over the past month. Medical Officer for Surveillance in St. Anne, Dr. Samantha Gallimore, told the St. Anne Municipal Corporation last Thursday that clusters were identified at Rio, Sandals, Bahia Principe, Moon Palace, and Majestic Villa. President of a Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, Clifton Reeder, on Tuesday sought to quell alarm, saying that despite the clusters, the positivity rate along the resilient corridor is still far less when compared to the national rates. But Chairman of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Godfrey Dyer, has taken it a bit further.
The criticism against the hoteliers, very unfair. It's less than 2% of the tourists who stay in the hotel have COVID. Less than 2%. You can't use that and criticize it as any major thing. It's unreasonable, and it should never have been done.
He says the health personnel should be focusing on other areas of society to reduce the COVID numbers and not on the hotel sector. Mr. Dyer says the hotel sector has implemented the requisite measures to control any outbreak among its staff and guests.
You have problems elsewhere in the island that need to be highlighted.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Besesa McKenzie is this afternoon insisting that preparations are in place to continue care for persons with non-communicable diseases. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, a number of persons living with various conditions have worsened because the hospitals are unable to care for them due to the volume of COVID-19 cases at these facilities. But Dr. Besesa McKenzie says some hospitals now have a call-out system where patients are called and a determination is made about whether they need to visit the health facilities. She says, in some instances, persons would just visit the facilities to pick up their prescriptions.
We have seen in our primary care system that through the NHF we have been looking at various ways to get prescriptions to persons, including delivery of prescription items in our most vulnerable populations. We have had the lengthening of the prescription period from 3 months to 6 months in order to ensure that persons do continue care. But there are always going to be those persons that get left behind.
Despite those efforts, the CMO says there are still challenges as the conditions of a number of these persons will get worse.
Because they're not being seen, they may make an interpretation of what is happening that is not so bad, but it continues to worsen. So there's no doubt that, scaling down the clinics and the reduction in numbers because of maintaining of infection prevention and control measures in the clinics, there's no doubt that it will affect our patients.
There has been a further increase in COVID-19 hospitalizations. The Health Ministry says 575 people are hospitalized with the virus. 53 of the patients are severely ill, while 22 are critically ill. There are 13,989 active cases on the island. There was a decrease in new cases. On Thursday, 773 cases were recorded from 1,834 samples. This brings the overall case count to 117,717. The positivity rate is 48.2%. 7 more people have died from COVID-19, pushing the death toll to 2,568. 199 more people have recovered from the respiratory illness, bringing the total recoveries to 68,079. 605,437 people are now fully vaccinated against the virus. Councillors at the St. Ann Municipal Corporation are livid about what they call the failure of the National Road Operating and Constructing Company NROC to fix a long-standing problem with the Miami Bay roundabout. The issue was raised at the latest Municipal Corporation meeting. Sandy Williams reports.
The Miami Bay roundabout, located at the end of the North-South Highway in St. Ann, has been dubbed a popular crash site. This is because oftentimes vehicles large and small would lose control before crashing at the roundabout. The highway ends with a major road intersection, and councillors at the St. Ann Municipal Corporation believe it's the reason for the crashes and, by extension, loss of lives.
Many lives have been lost. Millions of dollars of damage have been created. Millions of hundreds and thousands of losses. Numerous amount of persons have been injured at that runabout, and today is still ailing.
The council had written to the National Road Operating and Constructing Company, NROC, to realign the highway in order to reduce the number of crashes in the area. But at the latest municipal meeting, the councillors learned that NROC is yet to respond to their concerns, and they are livid.
Because we all know that there are many matters as it relates to the highway that should have been resolved already with the municipality, the developers of that highway, and also NROC.
It's why they want a formal meeting with the entity.
We can set a meeting and invite representatives of area to come to this council and tell the people of St. Ann and Jamaica what they intend to do with that runabout out there.
I also support my colleagues in saying that NRA is not taking this as an urgent matter. We, the people in St. Ann, are the representative, the local representative of St. Ann. We are coming under fire because everything that happens, they've said the council, the parish council, even when it does not fall under the umbrella of the local authority. Everybody believes that the councillors need to fix everything. I have gone to many community meetings. I am literally bashed and embarrassed.
Sandy Williams, TVJ.
And it's time now for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to Midday News and thanks for staying with us. The new Agriculture Minister, Pernell Charles Jr., is promising increased investments in agriculture to help aspiring farmers with startup capital. Amidst those plans is also a call for more people to get into farming as the sector is primed to take off after the pandemic. More in this report.
Rotten crops litter a farm in Hearties in St. Thomas. It's a reminder of the risks involved in farming. But the new Agriculture Minister, Pernell Charles Jr., is adamant now is the time to get involved in farming.
Now, as we reset our economy and we move to get economic recovery booming, farming and fisheries are presenting opportunities to you.
The minister and the state minister, Frank Witter, toured several farms in St. Thomas where the Rural Agricultural Development Authority is working with farmers to boost production of 9 crops, including potatoes, peppers, onions, ginger, and pineapples.
We're trying to ensure that we sustain productivity of these crops and to be better able to manage them so that the farmers can really make some money and their economic well-being is improved.
The Agriculture Minister said he's encouraged by what he saw in St. Thomas.
On our first tour, and amongst that group, there are 2 women and 2 youth. So what it is saying is that when you take the inclusive approach and you involve persons, you're looking towards a future of sustainable development and sustainable growth. And so I'm very, 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 very pleased and encouraged with what I'm seeing. And we're going to continue to give the necessary technical support and support in terms of resources.
We women, we try men sometimes and we fail. It's not something to give up on.
One farmer who said she has benefited from state assistance with pesticides and fertilizers urged other farmers to join the formal system so they too can get assistance when they face issues.
No matter how hard it is, you will get help from the help of RADA. RADA is here for everyone.
The Ministry of Agriculture, in the meantime, has promised that it will pump more funds into the sector, including in the use of technology such as drones that can improve monitoring of farmlands.
That is something which myself and the Permanent Secretary are focused on in terms of now meeting and interacting with the financial institutions, seeing how we can also get some investment in our allocation at the ministry so we can give you that startup support.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Traveling officers at the Heart NSTA Trust who are being taxed for fuel will not be paid retroactively by the agency after an audit into the fuel allocation policy that was being used by Heart revealed that it was not illegal but rather an outdated policy. But during an appearance before Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, members argued that the traveling officers who really needed the benefit lost the most. Jamelia Maitland explains.
It was a query by an employee of the Heart NSTA Trust into why their traveling allowance was being taxed, which exposed the outdated policy being used at the government agency. Employees complained that they were receiving advanced petrol, 240 litres monthly for traveling, which was taxed based on usage, instead of the mileage-based policy being used by government. However, the traveling officers who needed the benefit the most became victims of the policy.
This is the policy of Ministry of Finance. You are deliberately not following through on that policy. Hence the workers or those who are deemed traveling officers, some benefit and some just don't benefit because they are doing traveling and they're paying the tax, while some are sitting down at a desk and classified as traveling officers and really still getting the 240 litre of gas per month.
The total amount of money taxed for the period was not given, nor the number of people who the policy affected. But Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Audrey Sewell, says the money was paid over to the tax administration and an audit conducted.
Initially, it was not being taxed, but when they were audited by the tax authority, they were instructed to deduct the tax.
Yeah, in keeping with what the legal provisions are.
Right, and
okay.
fortunately, they did not rule that the employees should pay retroactively what they were not taxed for.
Senior Finance Director at the Heart NSTA Trust, Kevin Mullins, says the company was using a 1991 policy. However, that policy was updated by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service to the mileage-based policy, which has now been adopted by Heart.
You know, even though we're trying to get to the bottom of this, we are seeing that there's a bigger issue, and it is supposed to be hopefully coming out of our report. How is it that the Ministry of Finance monitor these policies that they issue to ensure that they are carried out? Because otherwise, then why send out a policy directive?
Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Cody and Barry.
Daramon Trading has acquired 100% ownership of Spicy Hill Farms brand. The acquisition took effect on January 10. Trelawny-based Spicy Hill Farms manufactures a wide range of Jamaican products, including ram goat soup mixes and dried seasoning sachets. Spicy Hill also exports to the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and the Caribbean. Daramon Trading says it will be looking to expand the distribution channels. In news overseas, the number of Netflix subscribers grew to 222 million last year, but the surge in interest it saw during the pandemic is fading. Overall, Netflix added 18.2 million members last year, roughly half the number who subscribed in 2020. Investors had hoped that pace would start to pick up again, but the firm's 2022 forecast brought bad news, sending shares down almost 20% in after-hours trade. The firm said it expected to add just 2.5 million members in the 3 months to March. That's far lower than analysts had expected. Coming up in the Business Review this Sunday, we take a look at one small candle business that is lighting a path for itself. That's it for the Business Minute this week. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And here's Sandy Williams with the top regional and international stories.
In regional news, the Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, says there is need to ensure that standards are maintained for medicines used in the treatment of diseases including COVID-19. CARPHA said monitoring medicines quality along the supply chain and detecting substandard or falsified products are even more critical now due to the impact of the pandemic on supply chains. The agency also said market surveillance and control are essential regulatory functions of national medicines regulatory authorities. On the international scene, at least 13 people were killed in a huge explosion near a mining town in southwestern Ghana. Police say a truck carrying explosive to a gold mine collided with a motorcycle near the town of Bogoso. This reportedly caused a fire, leading to the explosion about 15 minutes later. A local police commander said the number of confirmed deaths had been revised down to 13 from a previous toll of 17. He said another 45 were being treated at local hospitals. There are fears that the number of deaths may rise as emergency teams comb through the remains of the houses. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we head now to a quick break. When we return, we'll have your midday sports report. Simon Preston is standing by.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. The National Sportsman and the Sportswoman of the Year for 2021 will be announced today when the R. Jurgelina Sports Foundation Awards ceremony is held virtually this evening, starting at 8:35. TVJ and the TVJ Sports Network will have live coverage of the awards function, while radio coverage will be carried on Hits 92 FM. Paul Hall's first game in charge of the Reggae Boys ended in defeat as they fell 3-0 to Peru in a friendly international in Lima on Thursday. After a scoreless first half, Luis Iberico opened the scoring in the 48th minute before Alex Valera doubled their lead in the 66th minute. Yoshimar Yutan made it 3-0 in the 82nd minute. The delegation are due to arrive on the island this afternoon. The Reggae Boys will face Mexico in the World Cup qualifiers on January 27 at the National Stadium. Back locally now, as Garvey Maceo High and the Manning School will square off in the final of the Issa da Costa Cup this afternoon at the St. Elizabeth Technical Sports Complex at 3 o'clock. In the curtain raiser in the Ben Francis final, St. Elizabeth Technical will face Edwin Allen at 1 o'clock. Across the Atlantic we go now as Watford will battle Norwich City at Vicarage Road in action from the English Premier League this afternoon. Watford are 17th in the table on 14 points, while Norwich City are 18th on 13 points. Kick-off is at 3 o'clock Jamaica time. EPL action continues on Saturday with a slate of 5 fixtures. To cricket we go now as the West Indies posted 250 for 9 against Sri Lanka at the Under-19 Cricket World Cup in St Kitts. Kevin Wickham top scored for the home side with 56, while Jamaican Jordan Johnson added 47. Dunith Welalage took a 3 for 39 for Sri Lanka. At sports time, Sri Lanka had reached 7 for 1 after 2 overs. The Caribbean side will need to win this game in order to qualify for the quarterfinals of the competition. Jamaica's Rugby Sevens team fell 31-7 to 2020 Olympic Games bronze medalists Argentina in their opening game at the World Rugby Sevens Series in Malaga, Spain. Omar Dixon was Jamaica's only try scorer of the contest after opening the scoring in the first minute. The Crocs will be looking to bounce back to winning ways as they face the United States at 1:05. The Jamaicans will end the group stages against the host nation Spain on Saturday. This is Jamaica's second appearance as a Tier 1 nation in Rugby Sevens. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Anthony, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Simon. And that's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.